Before I start with the video, I just want to say that I finally got a mic, so I don't have to use the AI voice anymore. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Enjoy the video. Recently, I found myself comparing my current life to an earlier version of it, thinking about my past self in a better way. Replaying conversations, imagining different decisions. Instead, you need to understand what it is that is keeping you attached to the past and accept that you cannot change what has already happened. So yeah, I've already accepted that I can't change the past. But you actually need to learn whatever lessons the experience has to teach you, and then start putting your attention into the life you are living now, reaching a point where I'm at, where your past can exist without controlling your present. Now that I got that out of the way, I want to tell you that being stuck in the past usually isn't about the past itself. For example, a memory can last 10 seconds, but the meaning you attach to it can follow you for years. Maybe you had a period of your life where you felt genuinely happy, and now you're constantly thinking, I just want things to be like they were back then. But notice what's happening. The memory isn't necessarily hurting you by itself. It's the story you keep telling yourself about the memory. Imagine someone making a mistake at school. The mistake happens once, but afterward they spend months thinking, why did I do that? Everyone probably thinks I'm stupid. I always mess things up. The event happened once, but they're emotionally reliving it hundreds of times. That's the trap. You can't go back and change the event, but you can change the relationship you have with it. And that starts with accepting something that is incredibly difficult. It was very difficult for me as well. But basically, you cannot rewrite the past. You can analyze it, understand it, learn from it, and grow from it. But you cannot go back and become the person you were before it happened. And to be honest, that's okay. The goal is to stop needing your past to be different before you allow yourself to be happy again. Think about how much energy people spend fighting reality. For example, I wish I never met that person. I wish I took that opportunity. I wish I started earlier. And I admit that I've put a lot of energy into fighting reality as well. But every time you say, I wish, you're placing your attention somewhere you have absolutely no control over. Your brain is spending energy trying to negotiate with something that has already happened. And while you're doing that, the present is passing by. Days become weeks, weeks become months. Eventually, you look around and realize you've spent an enormous amount of your life thinking about a life that doesn't exist anymore. So, the first step toward escaping the past is to stop asking, how do I change what happened, and start asking, what can I do with what happened? If you regret wasting time, use that regret use that regret as a reason to start today. Your past can either become a prison or a teacher, and the difference is what you decide to take from it. Another important thing you need to understand is that sometimes you aren't actually missing the past. You're missing how you felt during the past. This is one of the biggest reasons people struggle to move forward. For example, you might think you miss a certain person, but maybe what you really miss is feeling understood. You might think you miss your old life, but maybe you miss the freedom you had during that time. You might think you miss who you used to be, but maybe you miss the confidence. Once you identify what you actually miss, you can then start looking for ways to create that feeling again in your current life. You don't need to recreate the exact same circumstances, but you need to understand you need to understand the need underneath them. If you keep expecting an old situation to make you feel better, you're going to keep returning to it. You have to start looking for that fulfillment in the life you are building now. Another reason people stay attached to the past is probably because they confuse familiarity and with happiness. Even when your old life wasn't perfect, you knew what to expect. The present is uncertain, and uncertainty can make the past feel safer than it actually was. Your mind knows the past because you've already experienced it. The future is unknown, so your brain naturally wants to return to what it understands. But staying somewhere simply because it's familiar will keep you from experiencing anything new. You have to become comfortable with not knowing exactly what comes next. Moving forward requires you to accept that the next chapter might look completely different from the previous one. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means you're no longer limited to what you've already experienced. Another thing you need to stop is turning your past into an identity. I do this one a lot. Something that happened to you is not automatically who you are. A mistake doesn't define your character forever, and a difficult period doesn't determine what the rest of your life will look like. The problem starts when you repeatedly tell yourself that your past proves something negative about you. Eventually, you stop looking at the event and start looking at yourself through the event. That's when regret becomes much harder to escape. The first question keeps you trapped in judgment, the second allows you to grow. You don't need to hate your former self to become better. You simply need to recognize what you would do differently now. That difference is growth. You also need to be careful about romanticizing the past. When your current life feels uncertain or disappointing, it's easy to remember an earlier period as better than it actually was. Your memory naturally focuses on certain moments while leaving out everything that made that period complicated. This can make you believe that going backward would solve your problems, but even if you could return to that exact moment, you wouldn't be the same person anymore, because we've all changed since the past. Your priorities are different and your experiences are different. That's why trying to recreate the past usually doesn't work. What you're really looking for is often a feeling you associate with that period. You can't build that future while constantly spending your mental energy somewhere else. Another important step is learning when to stop revisiting the same thoughts. It's okay to do it sometimes, but not all the time, because reflection can be useful only when it leads to understanding. And there's a point where reflection becomes a repetition. Once you've learned the lesson, continuing to punish yourself doesn't make you wiser. It just keeps the memory alive. When you notice yourself replaying the same situation again, recognize that you've already had this conversation with yourself. You don't need another 100 attempts to reach the same conclusion. Bring your attention back to what you're doing. This will feel difficult at first, because it was for me as well. I think it's because your mind has becomes used to going backwards. But attention is something you can practice controlling, though. Every time you notice yourself drifting into the past and choose to return to the present, you're building that ability. You may have to do it a lot, but eventually the thoughts become less powerful. You don't need to wait until you completely stop caring before you move on. You can move on while still having complicated feelings about what happened. The mistake is believing that you need emotional certainty before you can take action. You don't. Sometimes your actions have to come first, and your feelings catch up later. Start living differently before you completely feel different. Give yourself new experiences, change your routines, work towards something meaningful. Spend less time revisiting what has already happened and more time participating in what is happening now. Eventually, the past becomes a lot smaller, not because you erased it, but because your current life has become bigger. And that's really what escaping the past comes down to. You don't need to defeat every memory, you don't need to understand every detail. You just need to accept what you can't change. Your past deserves to be acknowledged, but it doesn't deserve unlimited access to your future. So instead of spending your energy trying to change an old chapter, start putting that energy into creating the next one. Before the video ends, I also want to say that I think I'm going to start a hardcore world in Minecraft now, because like in the other videos, if you watch them, it's just me playing different worlds and stuff like that. Not consistent. I started a super flat one, but I think I'm just going to stick to one hardcore world for the rest of my channel, or for at least a good portion of the time. That's all I want to say. Make sure to subscribe and like. Thank you.